Celtics win 117-115. It's 1:20 in the morning right now. Jimmy's already asleep. It's past his bedtime. This is the Gardner Report. That's it. Celtics won. Jimmy's awake now. Gardner Report. We are joined by Jimmy Toscano, of course, always. But no, we're actually excited. Yeah, we're excited to have Greg Payne from ESPN Boston on the show with us right now.
Thanks for coming, Greg.
He has a tie clip. His tie matches his cardigan. I mean, this guy's got style galore right now. We're going to make this a really fancy and exciting episode of the Gardner Report. We're going to talk to Mark Cuban later in the show about the NHL lockout, maybe a little bit about hookers even. We're going to talk about Jeff Green a little bit, Paul Pierce a little bit, but we're really going to talk about overtime. I mean, we're all just like passing out right now. It was a late game. We started shooting the show at 1:20 in the morning this time. It's a late one. It's double overtime. First overtime was really exciting, Greg. Second overtime is kind of a snooze fest. I mean, how did you think they did tonight?
It was a bit more of a grind in that second overtime, and obviously, just you get tired legs when the game goes that long. It's not it's not too surprising, especially kind of with some older players, of course, and everything. Everyone kind of wore down. I think everyone was exhausted. The players, I think us watching the game, everyone sort of was worn out by the end of this. Definitely a grind, definitely a dogfight. But obviously the Celtics are happy just to get the win. I mean, they're talking about how they have all these positives from games, but they haven't won the games. Well, they have some positives in this one. Granted, it's a long game, but they come out with the win. They have to be happy about that.
I agree. I mean, like you said, the first overtime it's exciting because at the end of the game where they had a chance to win it, and obviously that play didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But in the second overtime comes in, and like Greg said, now you're getting 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and Kevin Garnett and Rondo and those guys are getting into the 40 minutes now, and it gets kind of sloppy. I think some of the refs, those guys were starting to fall asleep behind the whistle too. So it was good. It was good though to play extra minutes. If you can come out with a win, it makes it all worth it. And I think that's what the Celtics kind of felt like, because we've seen them on the other end of those games where they lose, and it's just so draining to come out that way. So when you can come out with a W before the road trip, that's a good thing.
I think it was really you could see a lot of jump shots late in basically both overtimes, even the fourth quarter down the stretch, and that was also a sign of the fatigue, and it really took Rondo finally going to the basket to put them ahead, and kind of that's what you needed, that sort of effort. You just weren't getting it for the majority of both overtimes, and finally Rondo kind of put him over the hump and gave him that lead. I think you needed someone to kind of put that effort forth, and it's difficult to do when you're pressing like that, but Rondo finally was able to do that and get them to lead. So.
And one thing that screwed things up, I think, for both sides was you had this weird trend where the refs were calling like the smallest of fouls pretty much on almost every single possession, where a little bit of a hand check and they were blowing the whistle on it. And then, of course, you see everybody comes out for the second overtime. They're barely moving. They're just jacking up jump shots that are hitting the front of the rim. And then those whistles kind of stopped happening, when actually I thought the contact kind of picked up a little bit. And, Greg, there were legitimate calls to be had there. But it felt like the tone that was kind of set for the second overtime was just the jump shots at the beginning falling flat, and it was just kind of went into the foul game at that point.
Yeah, and I think you could tell the players were really looking to try and get some fouls at that point in the game. They were really pressing, especially Paul Pierce, to hopefully make some contact and get those whistles, and they weren't the majority of the time. Unfortunately, again, I come back to it. You just have to kind of go to the basket and either force the contact or force the refs to make a call. I mean, I think they were kind of backing off, making those ticky-tacky calls when the players started to kind of fall back and in line and shooting those jump shots. So I think, again, you wanted to really force that issue, and again, it took Rondo to do that to finally push through. I think Rondo kind of had to be that guy. I mean, talk about the guy who has the easiest time getting to the rim. Rondo's right up there in terms of who does that best on this team. And you finally need him to do that. But yeah, the calls really weren't going anywhere. And if you're settling for jump shots, you're looking for a call, and you're not getting the calls, then that's more. You need to be more assertive in going to the basket. You need to realize, okay, I'm not getting that call. Let's go to the rim a little bit and make some more contact and get a higher percentage shot, hopefully.
Yeah. I think you were the one that brought up to him that it was 52.5 minminutes for him tonight, which was a career high, right?
I think he said in the regular season. Yeah, maybe that's something else in the postseason. But yeah, definitely a lot of minutes all around, especially for Rondo though. But like you hear a lot. He's young, and he's the one player that on the team that can really handle that and show up next night and be fine. I mean, they'll have the day off tomorrow, the travel day tomorrow, and then be on to Houston. So he'll be rested up. He'll be all right.
Yeah, and it's a little frustrating sometimes to see, because like you said, Rondo is probably the best player on the team to get to the rim. It's kind of frustrating to see that when he has a chance to get to the rim, late in the game, he'll settle for the jump shot.
Yeah.
And I know it's because he's tired, and I don't blame him because, you're like I said, you're up there in the minutes. But
and because he thinks he's a good shooter now too.
Right. Well, and
he's gotten better.
The numbers show that he's getting a lot better at shooting, but you'd still like to see the higher percentage shot, try to draw the foul going to the lane. But like we said, he's tired. But when you're tired, your jump shots come up short, and we saw that a number of times, not just with him, but with both sides, guys electing for the jumper. And when you take jump shots, you're less inclined to get the foul call than if you take it to the rim.
Yeah.
So you're going to get less calls.
And guys, I think a lot of the guys on the team were kind of disappointed a little bit with the execution down the stretch. You saw whenever they had a chance to win the game, they settled for a jump shot, Paul Pierce, Rondo, and you really want to see them something closer to the rim in that situation, whether it's those guys attacking the basket or even trying to post Kevin Garnett on the block, or even Jeff Green. I know that Vince Carter, him posting on Vince Carter throughout the game wasn't very successful, but I still thought down the stretch, maybe even in the second overtime, to get him down there and have him put up the jump hook or something like that. They really were just trying to it seemed to like avoiding the paint at all costs, which is very unusual. But they kind of needed that effort, and I think they were kind of disappointed that they settled for those jump shots. But as long as they got the win, I think they'll brush it off, learn from that, and hopefully apply it moving forward.
Jimmy, quickly, Paul Pierce, huge night for him, 34 points. He had 12 in the overtime period, 9 for 11 from the line. That's where he really made it count. It was him that was getting fouled mostly at the end. Yeah. They needed him to step up and ice the game, and he pretty much did it.
No, yeah, and he's that guy. He still is that guy. I know people say it's Rondo's team, and to an extent it is, but Pierce is still that guy that I think they go to when they absolutely need to, and he comes through more often than he doesn't. I mean, there obviously that shot in the first overtime, it looked like he maybe got fouled, maybe he didn't at the end of that first overtime, but he's still that guy, and like you said, he came up huge in a lot of spots, hit some threes, and he hit those other jumpers, and he's their guy. And we don't like the Pierce ISO as much as maybe we used to, but it's a play that's not going anywhere, unfortunately, right now, and it's a play that they're going to run in, and he's the guy that they're going to, whether it's Rondo to him or there's KG to him, but he's the guy that when he's taking the shot, I'm still confident that it's going to fall, whether or not it does.
Well, the only thing, the thing that might have to change now, whether it's his age or it's the makeup of the team, you can still have that ISO play, but maybe just get closer to the rim.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of making it an 18 or 19 foot shot, try and make it a 10 to 12 foot shot.
Right.
I mean, one of the most recent ones he's had in recent seasons is that game winner over the New York Knicks over Amari Stoudemire, where he was only probably 7 or 8 feet from the basket when he faded away and hit the shot. I mean, if you can make it easier on yourself, if you're Paul, you want to get as close as you can rather than settling for, not just an 18, 19 foot shot, but also with the hand in your face doing that. If you can get closer, obviously it's common sense. Basketball, closer to the rim you are, the better chance you have of making the shot. So,
and we kind of saw that evolution of the ISO for him tonight, where they were posting him in the middle of the paint on a couple plays, where he was kind of coming off of a screen, catching the ball at like the free throw line extended really, and you saw him taking a couple shots from the free throw line, which 4 years ago would have been, or even 2 years ago would have been 20-foot fadeaways that he probably would have front rimmed. Because the old Pierce ISO was crossing it over like a like a street ball player. Nowadays they're trying to give him more perimeter post-ups and a little bit more coming off the screens. So let's
real quick. I wanted to see I wanted to see them go to Terry a little bit more in the overtimes. I thought, I thought that if it was Ray, maybe they would have went to Ray a little bit more. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe the plays weren't designed for Terry. Maybe he wasn't open as much as they thought he could have been. But he's a great shooter, and there was a couple of times where they could have used, a great shot. And I just felt like maybe they got away from him a little bit towards the end.
All right, now let's talk about the pick and roll trapping. That's the new term galore in Boston Celtics Nation nowadays. It's trapping on the pick and roll. It's a little bit of a change up for Doc Rivers, where it usually has always been have the big man kind of hedge out as hard as he can, have the point guard come around. But now they're trying to get guys like KG and Bass to actually get out there, halt the point guard or whoever the ball handler is, trap them, and it worked tonight. 27 turnovers, 16 steals. Greg, I mean, is this the future for this team, trapping on the pick and roll?
I think it's the whole future for the whole season. I think they want to implement more coverages as the season goes along, but there's been a lot of talk lately about them simplifying the pick and roll defense. I think this is the key part of it, where you just kind of change it to one coverage, just the trapping, and really focus or hone in on that, and not worry about too many other sorts of ways of defending the pick and roll, hedges being one of them. And they really want to cut down on dribble penetration. The Celtics can't stand it when the guards get in the lane, because it basically makes it a free-for-all once you get in the paint like that. Not only does it break down the defense, but it gets guys out of position. You can't rebound as well either. So by trapping like that, you really want to cut down. The goal is basically to cut down the dribble penetration, hopefully get guys in good enough positions to still rebound, and just kind of tighten everything up, if you will, and not have that sort of chaos in the paint when guys get in the middle of the lane like that.
Yeah, and I think that goes with the fact that they're not a big team. Like, as many guys as they can to stay out of the paint, keep them out of the paint. And I also think there's a surprise factor involved when you've got a guy like Kevin Garnett, you know, go up and trap you and stay with you, and that led to some turnovers tonight as well. And I think teams will adjust that over time. I think when they see the game plans, they're going to watch more in film. They're going to say, okay, this is what they're doing now. We're going to have to adjust to it. So I mean, you can't do the same, like in any sport, like in football, whatever. You can't do the same thing every game and get away with it. But it was nice to see it work tonight.
And a lot of players touched on it after tonight's game, but it does put a lot of pressure on the bigs on this team. I mean, it really wears those guys out, especially Kevin and Brandon Bass. So those guys probably are feeling it right now more than anyone, really. And Rondo praised them afterwards. Kevin Garnett kind of gave a chuckle when we asked about, you know, how hard you have to work, and he's, yeah, you're telling me, you know, they really have to put the effort into to make this defensive rotation work. But they're good enough to do it. I mean, they know that's what it takes to win, and you're going to get that effort from them, you know, pretty much every night. So.
Yeah, and KG talked about playing a lot of minutes. Doc talked about defending O.J. Mayo, who's been the hot scorer for Dallas. It's pretty much single-handedly been putting them close to a 500 record. So let's take a look at what they said tonight.
You guys did a lot of trapping. As you've done a lot of trapping lately. As a big, how exhausting is that?
You telling me. Telling me. I don't have no comment on that, but yeah. It's nothing easy about being a big, and it's hard work. That's what it is.
Well, we've been trapping. I've been talking about it a lot, and over the last 7 games, it's been paying dividends for us. It's been terrific. So.
You just talked about the job on Mayo.
It was good. It just, yeah, the trapping. We just had to keep him in a box. He's good. I mean, he's really good. He's strong as an ox, and he makes difficult shots. I think he's shooting over 50 from the 3. He's just a tough guy to guard. Our thought was trying to, you know, make it, and yet when you look at his numbers, he still had 24 points and shot over 50%.
Out of the box, Boxing Out presented by Greg Payne tonight. It's our new sponsor for the evening. Greg, we'll start with you. And what number is just the bootylicious for you tonight?
Yeah, I want to point out the free throw shooting tonight. 25 of 30 as a team, over 80%. It was a sign of their aggressiveness. I think when they first started the game, they settled for a lot of jump shots. It wasn't too much of an effort to get to the rim, but as the game went on, they kind of adjusted and really made it more of a concerted effort to get into the paint and create contact and whatnot. And most importantly, free throw shooting down the stretch in the overtime periods. You know, Paul Pierce especially. I know Courtney Lee had 2 big ones that really officially sealed it at the end. But I mean, when you put in those pressure situations, when you're in a game like this where it's back and forth and you finally get a lead and you have to really ice at the free throw line, I mean, you can't stress enough how important those free throws become, especially when you're grinding out like this. I mean, we saw how difficult it was just to get a lead and maintain a lead for both teams tonight. So when you're in that spot and you can really ice it with the free throw line, it says a lot about your team and the guys you have, and Paul Pierce especially did a great job with that down the stretch. And again, 30 free throw attempts is a great number that they'll happily take that night in and night out. Again, a great sign of their aggressiveness as the game went on. Didn't really start out that way, but again, made the adjustments as they needed to. And again, we're clutch down the stretch, and that's really all you can ask for in a game like this.
All right, Jay-Bird, what number woke you up from your pre-show slumber?
Turnover. Oh, shoot. Just turned it over. Oh, well, that makes perfect sense because my boxing out is turnovers tonight. The Mavericks had 27. The Mavericks had 27. The Celtics had 13. We talked about it earlier, the trapping. And
okay.
Are we done?
I'm taking this seriously. Go.
No, I mean, it's pretty short and sweet. I mean, the Celtics had forced 27 turnovers tonight, which is a gigantic number. When you turn the ball over that many times, you know, when the Mavericks turned the ball over that many times, like, I would be, surprised that it was as close as it was with that many turnovers. But it's because they shot a higher percentage. So take it away with yours.
If I could add one thing on the turnovers real quick. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. But Kevin Garnett did say after the game, but it's a sign of their aggressiveness with the ball right now. I think the last handful of games, you see them be just very sloppy with the ball, very lazy passes, and it's situations where you watch and just like, really, like, you guys can't make a better pass than that. So the fact that they're aggressive with the ball, as Kevin Garnett pointed out afterwards, that's a great sign.
And it was actually fitting that Dallas pretty much ended their chances with the turnover, that out of bounds throw. And that was fitting that happened because they had 27.
And they took all the good ones. I'll just say 100 shots just because it's kind of an anomaly for this team. A very rare occurrence. They had 105 shots against the Magic a couple weeks ago. But, they never really get involved in these high-octane kind of games. And there was only 5 fast break field goal attempts, actually. So it was really just kind of more quicker pace, half-court offense. And, of course, they played an extra, 10 minutes, of course. 5 times 2 is 10.
That helps.
I can do it. I can't even do it. I can do multiplication, guys.
You can do it, but you can't say it.
Exactly. I can't even think of it. But, even in 10 extra minutes to get 100 shots off, that's pretty fast pace for the Celtics. So good for them. Make things a little bit interesting, even though we all thought the second overtime was so boring that it kind of negated all the excitement from earlier in the game. All right, so we boxed out. Now we're going to go behind enemy lines. Usually we talk to players, but with the Mavericks, who else do you talk to? But the owner himself, Mark Cuban, he was rocking a light blue cardigan sweater thing tonight. So he was feeling very soft and warm and gentle. And so we got a few F-bombs out of him.
Can I say one thing first?
You can say one thing first.
Mark, if you're watching, I love your show, Shark Tank.
Take it away, Mark.
But if you don't fix the problems, they escalate. So they didn't fix them the last time, and they should have. And so you see where they are now. I mean, when you have all your Southern franchises basically suck and win, there's a message there, and you got to fix it. I mean, you got 2 different worlds, the North and the South, and it's kind of like a civil war going on right now that's got to be fixed. So yeah, I'd cringe more as a hockey fan. I'd cringe more if they don't fix it, because just like the last one, it's only been 5 or 7 years, right? And you kind of forget about it. But I even wrote a blog back then that they should have fixed it, and they didn't.
Seems like what they're trying to fix now is some little things.
I don't know all the particulars, but whatever it is, they got to fix. They got to fix it, and if a market like the Stars can't survive, with whatever they do, they should be embarrassed, because this is your chance to fix it.
Do you think it's a matter of just getting rid of some of those Southern teams?
I have no idea. I mean, I do know that when you got players with contracts, those contracts don't go away because you get rid of the teams. So someone's got to pay them.
What's your perception of where they are compared to where you guys are at this point?
They're both clusterfuck. There's no good way, because everybody thinks they have a solution in those scenarios, and nobody wants to listen to the other guy's solution. And it's just when desperation sets in, that's when something gets done, and that's not it's not the best way to solve business problems, but that's what ends up happening.
All right, it's time to ball up right now. We're gonna let Greg kick it off because he's kind of the biggest baller on the planet right now. Payne, who is your baller of the night?
I got to go with Paul Pierce after this one, guys. 34 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Obviously, plenty of clutch scoring down the stretch, as you kind of come to expect with him. And then one career milestone that we should point out, he passed the 23,000 career point mark tonight. So it's just another one to add to the books for him. I mean, I don't think anyone's really surprised when he does these things anymore. With a number of good seasons probably still in front of him, a couple at least. He's going to keep passing these milestones, but it's a great, another one that kind of adds to the list. And again, that was sort of a microcosm of everything he's kind of done for this team over his career, and ending things in appropriate fashion down the stretch, and just good for Paul, and they roll along.
Absolutely. I would agree with you. I think Paul definitely was a player of the night, but for the sake of switching it up, making it interesting, I'll say Rondo was co-player of the night.
Okay.
I thought it was a classic Rondo game. Was it 15 points, 16 assists? Am I saying that right?
16 points,
15 points, 15 assists.
And 9 rebounds. He flirted
very
closely with
some
that
extra time for it.
Yeah.
And also, I think he had some steals, right?
Rebound.
3 steals. And that's why I'm giving it to Rondo as well, because I thought he had a big, that little, that risk he takes when the back tap.
And it is a risk. I mean,
if
that hadn't worked, OJ Mayo had probably a wide open layup.
The fact that it worked, good job.
It worked this time.
Baller of the night.
He also kind of committed the dumbest foul of the game, where he was
like,
and he just hits OJ right in the eye. I never understood defenses where you put your arm straight out, because you're just asking for them to draw the foul. It's like the easiest foul to draw in the game. Yeah.
That's what us
Paul
undersized.
Pierce looks for that's when he does a rip under move.
Exactly.
And he brings it right up
and they try to take that out of the game, at least on shooting. This
Kevin
year.
Durant makes a living off of that play.
Exactly. Well, he'll continue to make the money.
Some of us undersized guys, we gotta find advantage. You block the eyes. You gotta block the eyes with your hand.
All right, let's go to oversized guys again, remixing it back over to Paul Pierce, just because the free throw shooting at the end of the game was so clutch. I mean, there was the way that team was shooting throughout most of the second half of the game. You definitely had the feeling you could have easily gone, like 3 for 7 in the overtime period. 1-point game or even a tie ball game for most of that, and the fact that they had the upper edge throughout the whole kind of gamesmanship of the whole fouling thing throughout most of the second overtime, I thought that was the biggest advantage that they had the entire night, and they needed that because they were all so tired that if they weren't getting fouled pretty much for most of the second half of that second overtime or having to run plays, it could have been a disaster.
Yeah, they would have been like running through quicksand or something like that.
Exactly.
What it looked like.
They kind of already were. And actually, I do want to give a Baller of the Night nomination quickly to KG, just because his defensive hustle, when you just saw him, especially in the second overtime, he looked like he was about to stumble over and just pass out. Yeah. And he was still double teaming and then running back. I mean, the effort out of him was unbelievable.
Yeah.
If I could change my answer, I might give it a KG.
Yeah.
What's important to point out too, he played 40 minutes
tonight.
We
already locked it in.
I mean, 32 is sort of usually the barrier you don't want to surpass with Kevin Garnett, but 40 minutes tonight.
He earned those.
You're probably not thrilled if you're Dr. He's not thrilled with that number, but I mean, it's not like they've had a really strenuous week. I mean, you had the off day Sunday and Monday and a little bit of practice yesterday, so it's not like Kevin was really worn out coming into this game. So I think you can kind of get away with that tonight. You never want 40 to be any sort of consistent number for him. Again, 32 is that sort of cutoff number, but he had to do it tonight. Obviously, you need him on the floor when you're trying to win a game like this, a close game where it's a grinded out defensive game, and he came through, of course.
Man, I mean, I'm sure if Dr. Brazil was going to go into 2 overtimes, he would have benched him a little earlier in the game, and I think he said that too. But when it's in overtime, you want your best players on the court. Yeah. Kevin Garnett's one of your best players. He's got to be on the court.
You know what? KG's in great shape. I mean, look at the guy. The guy's skinny as hell. He's cut. He's in good shape. He can handle this. He's a big boy. He can handle it. And they handled it well. And they squeaked by even as everybody was about to pass out at the end there. They contained O.J. Mayo for the most part. 9 turnovers for him. 7 for Darren Collison. I mean, 16 turnovers for a whole team is a pretty bad game between the 2 main backcourt guys for them. That was pretty huge. So overall, solid perimeter defense for the Celtics tonight. Solid just kind of overall hustle effort for them. They play the Rockets in Houston next. They got a little bit of swing down through the Southwest. Get a road trip, get some bonding on, maybe play some cards. Oh, actually, no, they're not going to play some cards on the airplane because they're not allowed to do that anymore. But you know what? They're still going to have
O.J. Mayo has something to do with that, I think.
Exactly. All right, well, we're going to go play some poker until 4 in the morning now. But I want to thank Greg Payne for joining us from ESPN Boston.
Thanks, Greg.
.com. Jimmy Toscano from Celticsblog.com and Jared Weiss from CLNSradio.com. This is the Garden Report. We'll see you next time.
Dude, you should probably not do that anymore with that nice camera, right?
No, I got good aim. I was going for the...
it's like Drew Carey back on Who's Line through the hat after...